Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to call in sacred space. So as we join together to remember our dear Dell Dornbosch, let us begin by creating a sacred container for her memory. We gather in love and honor because we want to be united around this loving and beautiful being. And perhaps there's no better way to honor our dear Dell than to create an elemental container. So let us first call in the sky mysteries, the sun and moon, the planets and the stars, the skies where Dell found her work and felt most fulfilled. Let us connect with the earth in her timings. As day follows night, we open to the wisdom of the cycles of life and express our gratitude for the days we are granted on Mother Earth. As the seas ebb and flow, may we move with the tides of our lives and find ease in that movement. May we allow Dell's fiery passion for her life, her work, and those she loved, let them be a model for our own lives so that we may live more fully. We call into our circle of love the ancestors, including Dell's precious parents, family, and other ancestors to support her journey, including her priestess mother, Nicole Christine. And may our higher power, the God of our understanding, no matter what form we choose, hold us gently as we mourn our sister Dell, celebrate her life as a beloved mate, mother, grandmother, friend, priestess, and wise woman. And so it is. So, Anya, would you like to speak into this day for you?
Well, I'm just grateful to Michael for putting this together and doing all of the legwork of interviewing all of these women. And I'm really hoping that everyone who wants to be here is here. It's just really lovely that we can do this and that women can join from all over. And I know Dell is with us. I know she's chuckling somewhere as she overviews our gathering here, and just thinking about her this morning and thinking about what grand adventures she must be having right now.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect word, adventures. I found this reading by Christina Rossetti that I thought might be appropriate, as if Dell were speaking to us. Remember me when I'm gone away, gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold me by the hand, nor I have turned to go yet turning stay. Remember with me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you'd planned. Only remember me, you understand. It will be late to counsel then or pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile than that you should remember and be sad. Mm-hmm. So knowing the joyous spirit of Dell, she would so want us to remember and smile and enjoy our beautiful memories. So, Michael, would you like to tell us about this process that you went through with the recording? Because I think everybody would be very interested in knowing what you did, the extent of what you did, and how immense that project was that you pulled together in the last few days.
Well, thank you. It is so not a was. It's so active. I've been working, continue to work. I found an entire file of Dell's poetry
Oh,
that she
wow.
sent me years ago. And now I'm going through these on everything else. And it's beautiful. I mean, her words are so beautiful. And I'm trying to find out ways of mixing them in. I would just love to read one. Just here's August 13th, 1993. I've breathed in a place of suspended time, waiting. I walk the path by the river mist, listening to my dreams and feeling the trails of light
Mhm.
swirling behind me, of so many parts of me that I was. I keep walking, watching myself disappear into the past, waiting for death to release my wild violet mother. She won't open her eyes, waiting for friends to move away, listening to the frog in my drain pipe, wailing in the midst of the river path, breathing in and out, suspended time and meteor showers. Um, so and I just picked that randomly, just so you know, that wasn't something I sat with. So I just asked Francis to get that for me. I just thought about that now. So I'm going through all of those. I haven't even gone through my own stack of pictures. So I'm enjoying this process. It's many things, as far as like the joys and the pains, and then there are certain words and stories that just make sense. And I think you'll see that when you see these stories, these interviews, which I've had to cut because there's so many and so they're so long. It's going to be about 2 hours long, so I don't know how many people can possibly withstand 2 hours of these stories to watch it from end to end. But I can just promise you that they're amazing, and they really do an
Mhm.
incredible job of capturing her. And everybody did an amazing job of sharing different elements of Dell. And when you put it all together, it's a pretty beautiful story. As you know, I'm emotional as heck. Her whole life is a beautiful story. No one really got her, and that's what's so fun about doing this. And like I've said this multiple times, is that we all knew a lot about a little piece of Dell, all of us. The whole piece, there's not anybody that really knew it. And so this is probably the closest, but I'm no fool. I know that this is missing a good chunk of her life. These are just the people that I was able to connect with, and get people to share stories and memories and sweet, tender moments. And, you know, she's
Mhm.
just, as you know, quite a model for all of us. I mean, and her life will ripple on forever as that model. And it was a joy. I mean, really, labor of love, understatement. The gifts that I'm getting from this, helping me really integrate the totality of who she is, and her contribution, and just really getting the most out of her contribution. Um, I recommend everybody do something like this with somebody as special as Dell in their lifetime, because it's an amazing process of honoring and assimilating and keeping her alive, to be honest. So thanks for asking. Honestly, when it came time to do this, because I can be a little, whatever the word is, in awe, especially having Bonnie and Anya as resources, I really felt like I wanted to delegate to both of you, and the sacred feminine, and the goddess energy, and the priestess energy, and all of that. And I wanted to be kind of in the background in this element, if that's at all possible. I appreciate putting it together, but I really feel like it's just best that I sit back and just honor, like I was in the ceremony, and just stand back and just honor what this means, and really let me play the role of honoring the sacred feminine yet again, and make this more about that energy where I can sail into the background and let Anya and Bonnie kind of have it, if that's okay. It feels amazingly appropriate to me to do that.
So I would just be curious to know how everyone, if they can remember, how they met Dell. I was trying to come up with it myself, and I know it must be through Melody that I met Dell. I'm quite sure that had to be the connection. And yet, it seems that she was always there in my life. So maybe that was past lives. I don't know. But love to hear from everyone how they got to meet Dell. So just unmute yourself, come on in and share if you will.
I'm going to go because I have a lightning storm. This is Starfire.
Oh my.
And I think it was 1996. I've gone through my pictures. I sent a couple to Michael. It was a goddess workshop. Now, in my memory, it was like right after she finished the priestess process and she went to Mexico, and she came back with her hair in braids, you know, like Bo Derek. And Joanne Tipping and another woman were leading my very first goddess workshop. And Dell was the goddess. I mean, she showed up as the goddess. And even though Joanna and this other woman had worked really hard to create the program, the pieces that Dell would infuse in each section was like magnificent. She brought the stars and the moon and the element that she had been doing ceremony in Mexico with her, and she had all of the accoutrements that went with it. It was fascinating. And she just was all smiles. And that's how I met her.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Jean.
I believe I met Dale through the priestess circle. I can't remember if it was the priestess circle first, and then she invited me to the drumming. I think that's how it happened. It was just a few years ago, so sorry that the memories just aren't coming forth at that time. But I remember meeting someone who introduced me to Anya, and then I read about Anya's priestess circle that she had featuring Nicole Christine. Dale was there, then the magic just happened from there. And it was a wonderful number of years. She is marvelous.
Awesome. Thank you.
For me, I was a limo driver while at Life University, and I fell in love with Roswell, Canton Street, right across the street from where Lorelei was, where she had her match made in heaven. Thank your lucky stars, right across the street. And I fell in love with this building, and it felt perfect for a chiropractic office on Canton Street. Found out later on that it actually was a chiropractic office once before it was for lease. And I just took it. I just basically said, this is it. And even though I knew nothing about Roswell, I found that area to be so charming. So then I went into the local newspaper, you know, Aquarius, and saw that there was a meditation center at Interquest, and it was right around the block. Patrick and Cindy were right there on Norcross Street doing their meditations, and I went in there to introduce myself. Since I came to the community, I said, let's say hi and break bread. I said, I did not know there was already a community here. Thought I was creating it, you know. I didn't know that there was, you know, conscious souls nearby. And so I did this Tuesday night meditation, and Dell was there, and she was totally into coming into the practice. We just connected right away. She mentioned that she had some kind of energy around that building, which I wasn't going to deny because it was so beautiful how she worded it, and it was quite a tickle if it were true. And of course, I'd like to believe it were true. that, you know, so she was told that something special was going on in that building. And so she came in. She's one of the first people I started. If I opened up on August 9th, which I did, she came in on that Wednesday, which is August 11th, 1993. And she was the first office manager. She came right in and just was as comfortable as you could have imagined. And she loved, I had so many chiropractic students coming to me, and she was supporting them with tinctures and doing readings. And it was just a community, and just an incredible community. And it never stopped, you know, to the point where she went with me to Hiawassee, to my practice there, that I would go on the road. And I talked about it in the video, so I don't want to repeat myself, but yeah, it was like right away. She's like totally connected to, you know, me and my professional practice in Roswell, and it is a direct connection there. So.
Mm. Mm.
Thank you, Michael. Who else would like to share?
I'll go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay. Well, I don't remember the exact year. It was either 94, 93, 94, 95. And the reason I know that is somehow I met Dell. I don't remember how I was introduced or who told me about it, but I showed up at her drumming circle at her home in Roswell with my then 2-year-old, 1.5-year-old son, Gabriel, in a sling. And at the time I was breastfeeding him. And here I found a circle of women doing drumming on the full moon. I had just moved from California, and I was in another world in Atlanta. And here I was in this circle of women that were like the women that I had known in California. And I was able to breastfeed Gabriel. So he would breastfeed while I was drumming. And it really made living in Atlanta so much easier for me. So that was how I met Dell, and I just made sure that I didn't miss a full moon drumming at her home. And it evolved from there. That we became friends and we had other connections. And of course I did a reading with her, but she was a lifesaver for me living in Atlanta, coming from Topanga Canyon.
Mm.
Beautiful story, Bonnie. Thank you. Who else?
Well, I'll share. I met Dell. We knew each other. I had seen her at Unity North. We were both in the choir together. And it was Michael's January 1st party. And we were sitting next to each other on the couch eating. And she said, you know, I think you and I have a lot in common. And we talked about our love of music. And then we discovered that we both knew Kundalini yoga. And she has quite an interesting story of learning yoga as a teenager in New York. And she just started telling me all these stories. And then Stephanie and Sasha were there. And I discovered that they had a deep respect and love for each other. So, you know, that was the start of our friendship. And Dell was actually the one who really kept reaching out, because she was wildly busy and I was wildly busy. And so I think if it hadn't been for her, and I mentioned in that conversation that my parents had both grown food and I wanted to learn to grow food. And she appointed herself my gardening instructor. I shared with her that I was having a really difficult time in my shamanic priestess facilitation training, learning shamanic astrology. And she appointed herself my astrology instructor. So I feel very blessed to have sat on the couch next to her that day.
I'm going to add to this story, because I didn't, when you gave this story on tape, when we recorded it, and you're not doing it now either, is that Dell was a birthday present for Melody, because what she's not telling you is that January 1st is also her birthday. So while we would have New Year's Day celebrations every January 1st, and still do, for Melody, it was extra special to have her because it was a celebration of her birth as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was my birthday present that year, was meeting Dell at the party.
Wonderful. Thanks, Melody. Who's up?
I actually met Dell in New York before we both moved here. I don't remember how, But when we moved here, then Jay became a good friend of Richard's, my husband at the time. And it's interesting what you said, Melody, about she appointed herself as yours. I mean, she was is the teacher's teacher of whatever was on her heart, on her soul. I'm curious, when she would call and leave me a message, did anyone else, did she used to refer to, she would say, "It's your deli." Did anyone else get that message? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And it would always be, "It's your deli." And I just want to share something, if I may. I was in touch with her until about maybe 2 to 3 weeks before she died. She was actually helping me through a very dark place. And so we talked about herbs, and we talked about prayer, and we talked about yoga, and we talked as if we were like two little kids in the playground just having fun and playing. And I'll miss her on so many levels, but I don't remember how we met in New York, but it was way, way back. And then we reconnected here. And then just obviously both being astrologers, it was so cool because we would have conversations, and speaking the same language was so fun for both of us because it didn't need any translation. But I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lorelei. Probably have a couple more quick stories out there.
I cannot remember if the Priestess Circle happened before I started going to drumming, or if I met Dell at her drumming circles, because I know that's where I met Bonnie Marie. And then the Priestess Circle happened. You know, it's hard for me to remember that far back. It seems like lifetimes ago. So, you know, Dell and I did lots of different things together. She took a flower essence class that I taught. We had lunch, we did the drumming circle, we were in 2 priestess circles, so lots of different connections. And I was the one who organized that trip to Mexico, to Acapulco, Starfire, with about 5 women. It was just a hoot, a total hoot with Dell there. And I've got, you know, some sort of private stories there that I won't tell. I did tell Michael, and you can tell by his laughter. They were pretty good. But if anyone wants to know, I can tell you privately, not in chat. So Dell was a hoot. You know, I think Lorelei, she was a Gemini sun, right?
Gemini Sun, Taurus, Moon, Sag rising. And I do want to make, maybe it's not appropriate for now, but I did want to make a comment about the timing of her transition that came to me.
Yeah, yes.
You want me to do that now, Bonnie, or you want me to wait?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so, and this was because, as I said, I was in a very dark night of my soul, and I have a Taurus moon as well. So the new moon in Taurus was April 22nd. And I remember saying to God, okay, I don't know how to stay here. I don't know how to leave here, but this is my new beginning coming up. So if I'm supposed to go to the other side, you know, wherever I'm going, I'm okay with that. You know, that would, timing wise, that would make sense. Well, Dell did make her transition in her lunar cycle, because she was a Taurus moon as well. And in that Taurus cycle, and I thought how beautifully divinely ordained. And on the day she died, May 13th, that was the day Mars went into Pisces. And that was the day Venus went retrograde. So it just, I mean, we weren't in touch for I called about 2 weeks after, maybe 10 days. And then I didn't hear anything. And I thought, maybe she made her transition. And then I heard from Michael. But I just thought that was so amazing. Well, not really, but I'm always amazed and in awe, even though this happens all the time. But what a beautiful celebration of her soul to kind of begin her next adventure in her new lunar cycle. I just thought that couldn't have been more appropriate.
So Nikki would like to speak. If you could unmute her, Bonnie, she would like to speak as well. And Nikki was in the original circle with Dell and I and Jean, and
I noticed two people were saying they weren't sure whether it was the drum circle or the priestess circle. I don't want to say the same thing. I think I'm going to pick one. I think it was the priestess circle that I met her, and then from there, the drum circles. which was it was just a joy, being a sister in that group with her and learning from her as well. And then the drum circle was just really the highlight of the whole of everything around her in her home, her beautiful home. That's where I learned how to drum. I didn't know I could drum, but just getting in there, and she says, just do it, just go for it, just try it. So I'm here banging like an idiot on the drum, and then finally, all of a sudden, the drummer came out of me. Oh, I could drum. So it was really great. I love those times of being there, the community, and people, connecting, eating food, drumming, singing, whatever. And she was just a big presence, and she was very supportive of me in a time of need where I felt some rejection in my life, and I'm glad that she was there for me during that, and taught me some things about looking over my own chart, which I'd already had received from being in the priestess circle. We all had our shamanic chart, and she looked at mine and helped me to clarify some things that that helped me to understand more about some of my interactions with people. But so I'm eternally grateful for her, and I wish that I would have spent more time, those last years or so. I just got, have people get busy in their own lives and doing their own thing, and you don't realize that until someone's gone, how much you wish you had spent more time with them. Yeah. And I'm seeing that with a lot of people that have left my life past 8 years, and so I'm all of y'all that are left. I love you. I'm grateful.
Yeah, and so there was also a suggestion. Were you finished, Nikki?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have just a few photos to share, and some of you will recognize yourselves in the photos. And so if you would be our guides, I will attempt to share this, see how this works. Can you all see what says Dell's Memorial?
Yes.
Great. Okay, now all I have to do is get the screen to move, okay. So here's our first picture. Who would like to navigate us through this one?
Oh, sure, I can do that. So I'm in the purple in the front row, and then there's Lisa Michaels, and then there's Jean, and right behind Jean, a little on the outside is Nikki, I believe.
Yeah, boy, I look a lot young there.
Yeah, and then Dell, and there are some, and Marlena is in the back, sort of in the back of me, and Dell is right in the back. You can see her bindi.
Yeah, right there.
It's right in the back of Lisa. So that was our circle.
And then Kim, just to name all of them, Kim and Sharon. Oh yeah, I took that one. That one was from. Oh, it brings back some great memories. That was the March 22nd to 23rd, 1998 inner marriage. That was where we dressed up as our masculine sign and our feminine sign, and we did a dance, a ceremony. I showed that to Michael, and I took a picture of it and sent it to him. In my videotape, I'll go into a little bit more explanation, but to me, that picture had 4 elements that were important to me about Dell. Number 1 was her spiritual connection to sisterhood. That was the priestess circle. Number 2 was her drumming. Number 3 was her smile and just it comes from her heart. And then number 4 was spirit. If you see down in the lower right-hand corner, it looks fuzzy, but really that was a picture of, to me, spirit. Some people say that's a reflection on the camera, and that may be true, but I really feel like spirit was alive in that picture and alive with us during that ceremony in the back of Anya's yard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome.
I think this is the back of Dell. And
yes,
it just looks like her. The only other person it could be would be Nicole. And this is Martha. Remember Martha's last name, Starfire?
I can't think of her last name.
It's Jean. I took that one as well. That was the same ceremony, the inner sacred marriage. We, again, dressed as our astrology, Venus in our astrology, Mars. Maybe Lorelei can tell us a little bit more about what Dell's Venus and Mars is. I don't know what they are.
Her Venus was Cancer. I know that.
Trying to remember where her Mars was. I'll think. Yeah. Well, you know, she didn't share her chart.
Yeah.
That's part of that school of, and even with,
Really?
yeah, I never really understood that, frankly.
I left it out of the interview, that reality, but I'll tell you, I'll speak into it, because the reality is it was the depth of respect that she had for astrology. And she
Wow.
felt that if people had poor intentions or bad intentions, that they can actually use your chart against you, and that there was so much information that it could be used in a very malicious kind of, like, malevolent kind of way. And it was purely out of respect for what a chart held and what it told, that she didn't share it. I promise you, it wasn't as much out of fear as it was out of respect. So
Yeah.
I left that part out when I was editing, so glad we touched on it.
Wow, thank you. That's a very important thing to know. Okay.
I do know that she always felt like she was growing into her Venus in Cancer as a grandmother. She spoke into that many times. That's a beautiful picture.
Well, and her Jupiter was Cancer as well. That I remember.
Yeah.
And she was like the Earth Mother.
Yeah.
And then with a Taurus moon, we all felt nurtured by her in so many different ways.
Yes. That was at the Priestess Circle, because I still have that picture right behind her. And the Priestess Circle happened at my house in Smyrna.
Okay.
Wow.
Melody sent these pictures.
So when Dell called to tell me the cancer had metastasized to her lungs, actually, I think I shared in the interview with Michael that I knew when she first developed cancer. Her calls to me were more frequent. Our lunch dates were more frequent. She brought me to her garden and started teaching me. And I knew that she was choosing me as someone that she would leave a legacy with. I knew at that time. And then when the cancer metastasized, that even increased. And so I gathered the priestesses together. She was on oxygen, which you can see. And we gathered together in her home, and we just gave her a blessing. And she did receive, and she was completely unable to just receive. So this is Dell teaching us. We had to talk about what was happening in the stars and, you know, astrology. And she gave us this little teaching. Yeah. So
beautiful.
I cherish that day.
I spoke to her daughter yesterday, the oldest one, Jan, and she talked about this picture, Melody. She wrote a very nice eulogy, and I'm considering adding it to the video, because Dell's middle name was Magdalene.
Yes,
so which is really beautiful, Adele Magdalene Dorenbosch. And she saw that you sent this picture up on the you know, where they did the obituary. She saw that you sent this picture, and it really touched her. So
yeah, this is Dell. This is her. She's always like leaning forward with a smile. She's just, yeah. This is who she was for me.
So thank you all. Michael mentioned that he had emailed me some pictures, but I don't, in the last short while, I just don't know if we can access them.
you know what? I may add them on the video.
That's a great idea.
I'll just add them on the video. That yeah, they're beautiful. They're two beautiful, really beautiful pictures. So, and I have to go through mine anyway, so I might have a couple.
So, what else would you like to share? What other thoughts do you have? I'll just throw in a couple of ideas that Dell always walked her talk. There was never anything ambiguous about the way Dell led her life. It was very much what you saw, what you got were the same things. And she was always true to herself and true to her beliefs. No equivocation, no equivocation whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that stands as a testimony to a life well lived. I think that was, I would aspire to that, to always be able to be my authentic self as she was, and made no apologies about it, no matter what it was. You know, this is who I am, this is how I am, and I love you. And if you want to love me back, that's great. And if you don't, that's okay too.
Bonnie,
Well,
you just reminded me by what you said that she was always true to herself. Her Mars was Aries. Just remember. Duh.
Yeah, no choice there, right, Lorelei?
You know that one.
She was always so encouraging the arts. I was a musician. She was a musician. I added her zither playing. I've got one of the last recordings that she gave me was her playing zither on a voicemail. It went to voicemail and she played, and it got me. It choked me up. I mean, I must have known or sensed it. It was incredible. And so I opened up the video that I'm making with it, and then I have a video, an audio recording of the zither that she played for me years ago, and you hear how young her voice is when she did the same thing, and she's saying, "Close your eyes and listen," and she just played the zither then too. And she was so, like you, Bonnie, very, very encouraging to me writing original music, and she wanted to hear what I played next or what I wrote. And she just was like a mom, like, that's so wonderful. Like, it didn't even have to be good. She was so encouraging, you know, to the arts. And I love that. Those kinds of things are always so endearing. And the way I worded it on the videotape was that she knew what you loved, and so she also loved what you loved on your behalf. Like,
Yeah.
when she asked about your kids, or, you know, how's everybody, you know, how's Thomas, how's Anthony, you know, how's Jewel, you know. It was amazing that she had that part down, like literally down. She was such a cheerleader for what you loved.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Michael.
Well said. What I thought we might do as we get ready to close, unless anyone has more they'd like to say, is why don't we take a moment in silence to offer to Dell our very innermost thoughts of love and wishing her a beautiful journey. So let's do that for just a moment in silence. So I hope you feel her presence, because I know she's here, definitely here with us.
I'd like to ask for everybody with that same energy to please send a lot of love out to Jay. He knew that he's not really ready to be here. He's not really ready to even watch this audio. And I know this is difficult on the kids too, and the grandkids. I think it would be really nice if we can use whatever energies we have to just envelop them as well as we can, whether you call it love or peace or all is well, but around them specifically,
Mm-hmm.
because they were very important to Dell.
Mm-hmm.
So as we begin to get ready to close, I'd like to just take a moment and let's imagine that all of the ancestors so vital in Dell's life, her parents, other family members, priestess sisters who have gone on, may they be guiding Dell as she journeys between the stars and the planets on her next great adventure. Let's just imagine. We're going to close our sacred container, and on behalf of Anya and Michael, just thank you all so much.
Starfire, did you want to say something?
I would like to say something, Bonnie.
Sure, by all means.
So I'm sitting on my front porch in my house, and I had to describe this house to Dell in detail, every little detail. And as we were, honestly, I can't remember now if it was before we enveloped the family or after. I sort of like, was it the drumming circle or the priestess process? But I felt a hand in the middle of my back. And the scene that was shown to me was Dell helped me so much when my father passed. And there's so many, there's so many forks, but I would like to say, instead of all the stories from Dell, I want to speak into the one piece. And I had a reading with this medium one time. Sherry Divers suggested that I see her, and I'm drawing a blank as to her name, but she was pretty remarkable. And in the reading, one of the things my dad said to me, and this goes back to what Dell sat down and said, I want you to feed your father this, this, and this, and make sure he does this, this, and this. And I sat with him 3 times, and after the 3rd time and he ignored me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna let it go. Particularly the miso soup every single day and da-da-da. From the other side of the veil, my dad told me I was right. And it wasn't me who was right, it was Dell. So it's fascinating because Dell's hand and my father's hand is about the same size. And it didn't feel like it was one person, it felt like it was both Dad and Dell that put their hand on my back as we were blessing them. But that was Dell. I mean, she had so many stories, but the last thing I'd like to say is that she just made it very clear that it would be okay whether he stayed or went. And she really believed that. So anyhow, I had to share that.
Thank you.
Bye, Dell.
Thank you for that. And Bonnie, that was so beautiful what you shared. And this whole ceremony is really beautiful. So I really, really appreciate that. I mean, I know I'm going to touch her again in those moments, like when I go to those sacred places where it's not from this world. I know that Dell and I have shared that in this world. So I know that I'll be able to meet her when I go back there again. I know she'll be there. At the same time, I love the grief. I can't even explain it. It's such a huge loss, because what an incredible being she really, really is. And so just thank you for all the care that you put into this. I really appreciate it.
And for all the meals we shared with her, because as much as there's that sacred, special spiritual place, I think of going to the Chinese with her and to John Boy's buffet, places that she really loved. So I just wanted to add that.
Taurus moon, she loved to eat.
Cancer, Taurus and Cancer, food, feed me.
Let's stop there. It's not just food, it's pleasures of the flesh.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. Hey, woman.
She knew how to have a body by Dell. I mean,
Right.
seriously.
Your Scorpio, Moon, and Jupiter needed to have a voice, Michael.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I so love that we're closing in joy and laughter, because I can't imagine that Dell would want anything more than that for all of us.
Oh, I just have a great idea for when we
What?
close. That we, like when she used to bless the food, we would all hold hands, and instead of going om, she'd go yum. So why don't we do that as an amazing, instead of a om, we do a yum, because that's how she would bless the food. And we can just, it sounds the same, which is so cool, but it's so playful and so Dell.
Let's
So
do it.
can we all unmic or unmute our mics?
I'll unmute
and
everyone.
we'll yum together. Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be awesome?
Yummer
Okay.
off into the universe, right?
Just started a
Yeah.
new trend, Michael.
Uh,
We're all going to yum together.
here we go. All right, so we have to imagine.
I
that-
want to thank you, Michael, for
Hands
just
up.
holding.
Hands up too.
Okay, hands up. Right.
Thanks, Michael, for hanging with all of us priestesses.
What an honor. You know, I mean, seriously, what an honor. Thank
He's
you
a
for letting me.
priest. He's a
Thank you
priest.
thank you for letting me be with you. It is an incredible honor, and I'm still working on deserving it. So thank you. Oof,
Thank you, Michael.
thank you.
All together. 1, 2, 3. Yum.
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 Yum, yum, yum.
Be well, everyone. Much love.
Thank you,
Thank
Bonnie.
you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Well
Thank you,
done,
Bonnie.
people.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Anya.
you.
Yep. Send us
Thank
out
you,
the
Michael.
All right.
Thanks for setting it
Bye.
up.
God
Bye.
bless.
Bye.